122M, found out my GF, 21F, wants to get explicit photos done. My GF and her friend were chatting and her friend mentioned that she was getting photos done by some guy that she was gonna give to her BF and have for herself as a confidence boost. She asked my GF if she would ever consider doing the same, and she seemed extremely interested in it. I only overheard a bit of this and mentioned it later, and I talked about how it made me uncomfortable having a stranger photo her in explicit scenarios and scene, especially because we didn't know who the person was or the gender of that person. She got defensive and said it would be for me, but even after I said I wouldn't want them, she persisted on doing it anyway. I didn't want to be controlling, so I said we would just talk about it later. Should I step back or try to stop it? Update. Sorry for not doing this sooner. I don't use Reddit that often and I didn't know I could edit this. I want to add some clarification and an update cause we've talked a bit more. I asked for far the photos would go and she said no nudity but still showing a lot of skin. That makes me feel better but still not the best. The guy whom they were talking about was her friend's uncle's friend, and we don't know how professional it is. We've been together for 7 years now and we've shared our first everything together, and I just feel like bringing outside parties into it is unsettling to me. She's still persistent that it's for me, but she did admit that it would make her feel better about her image. She said if I was actually that uncomfortable with it then she wouldn't, and I suggested doing something like that ourselves, although I wouldn't keep any of them. People also mentioned I could go with, but our work schedules clash and we only see each other at nights. I am also not comfortable with getting them done of me. If anyone would like more clarification, please feel free to respond. Some guy? Is this a professional or just some random dude her friend knows? As a former boudoir photographer, unless you get a very specific type of photographer, nothing we shoot is explicit. Can it be? Yes, but again that's done by very specific photographers and absolutely not the norm. It definitely is a boost to women to feel beautiful, especially in an area where most feel very uncomfortable and not beautiful. That being said, if you feel uncomfortable with a male photographer doing it, seek out a female. None of these photos are seen normally by anyone outside of the photographer and the client, and they're so. Maybe sit down with your GF and meet the photographer and see their work. They only show pictures of their work from clients who explicitly give them permission. If you still feel uncomfortable, then let her know why, but please do not label boudoir as explicit, as it is not. I mean, unless you physically want to hold her down or threaten her. You can't stop her. She is doing it for herself despite what she might think. You've already expressed your discomfort, so I would leave it there. If she actually goes through with it, then you can decide what to do after the fact. Explicit can mean a lot of things. Not always nude. Are you talking explicit as in nudes or like boudoir photos? Because these are very different. I'm always suspicious of straight men who engage in that kind of photography. But the majority of male boudoir photographers I've known personally and known about are like flamboyantly gay. They call it boudoir photos. Generally pretty tasteful lingerie. Not full nudity or anything. You should ask to see some of the guy's work and you'll see they're pretty mild. Mostly a confidence boost for the woman. Model, photographer here. I think having really nice pictures of yourself is an awesome confidence boost no matter your age or gender. However, there's a few things to consider to make sure that a shooting will be a nice experience rather than a creepy one. If she's adamant about taking those pictures, then you should get involved in the process. Support her. Make her feel loved and make sure she's safe with the photographer. Here are some infos. 1. There's a difference between nudes, showing everything, partly nude photos, Nudes but private areas are covered by fabrics or shadows. And boudoir. Pretty lingerie. Which kind of picture is she comfortable with? Make sure to discuss this with the photographer beforehand and do not let the photographer pressure her into going further than she's ready to while on set. 2. Research the photographer. I cannot stress this enough. Look at the portfolio, their social media presence, and make sure they're legit. There are creeps, but there's also many skilled photographers who are very good at their job and will not use a model's vulnerable position against them. Make sure you like the style of the photographer. Red flags. No online presence. No profile picture. No full name. Bad editing. PRN-like posing. Uncomfortable looking models. Pressuring the model to come alone. Asking for nude selfies. No contract. 3. Make sure to sign a contract. Even if the photographer is willing to take the pictures for free, sign a TFP. Time for prints. Contracts stating that the photographer won't be allowed to sell the pictures or post them on PRN websites. 4. Ask if she wants you to accompany her. You could make it a couple thing. Help during the shoot. Drape fabrics. Keep a warm blanket ready. Compliment her, etc. If she wants to keep the pictures a surprise, ask her to take a friend with her, just to be safe. A good photographer will discuss ideas and specifics beforehand, so make sure they do and don't try to stop her. She might try to do it behind your back then and take risks out of spite. Be there for her. Make it a fun experience as a couple. I understand it's weird to think of your hot girlfriend in front of a stranger, but believe me, a good photographer will only see the art they're creating. Maybe consider if a female photographer would make you less uncomfortable. Plus, in my experience, they generally take more tasteful pictures anyway. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask. How would you feel if the photos were done by a woman? I know there's plenty of female boudoir photographers. Could you split the difference and have your GF go to one of them? That way, she gets to feel sexy while you can feel comfortable with not having a male photographer. It does sound like she is going to do it anyway, and you could always talk to her about a female photographer if the males makes you feel uncomfortable. It would me, but some people just look at it as art. You need to have a real conversation about it, explain your fears and feelings about it. And let her explain her feelings about it too. Maybe you can find a compromise. But if you can't and you tell her that you are still uncomfortable with it and don't want her to, and she still does, that's pretty disrespectful to you. But you also can't straight up tell her she can't do it, because that is controlling. All you can do is let her know you're uncomfortable about it and why. She can either respect that and not do it, or she goes ahead and does it anyway, and you then decide if the relationship is worth it or not. That being said, it also sounds like you're a little paranoid and need some more information. Do some real research into what a boudoir photo shoot is. Then maybe you can come to a compromise where you find a company, photographer that you both are comfortable with. My wife had boudoir photos taken and it was a great experience for her. It made her feel sexy and I got some hot photos out of it. The photos aren't X-rated or anything. They are taken in nice lingerie, which usually cover more than today's bathing suits. Any professional photographer will have a contract and it'll be stated that the photos are private. They won't see the light of day unless the customer posts them somewhere. The photographer my wife used emailed her a while later asking if she would be interested to model in a free photo shoot for marketing purposes. The contract for those photos would state they can post them for marketing purposes. I get that you're uncomfortable about the potential of a guy doing the photos, but I'm sure you could find or request a female photographer. They are all about her being comfortable with the experience. I don't think they really like the partner to tag along, but there is the other option of doing a couple's boudoir session. Find a reputable company, photographer, and the issue of them posting them will be non-existent. They have separate contracts for paying customers and for marketing shoots. They don't want to be sued. It's her body. If she wants to get photographs done, it's her choice. But if you don't want to be a part of a relationship where the other person gets explicit photos taken by someone besides you, then that is your choice. You're allowed to feel uncomfortable with her intent with these photos. Them being a gift to you doesn't matter. This is a boundary for you. Stick to it. Tell her it's a deal breaker for you. I want to add some clarification and an update cause we've talked a bit more. I asked for far the photos would go and she said no nudity but still showing a lot of skin. That makes me feel better but still not the best. The guy whom they were talking about was her friend's uncle's friend and we don't know how professional it is. We've been together for 7 years now and we've shared our first everything together and I just feel like bringing outside parties into it is unsettling to me. She's still persistent that it's for me but she did admit that it would make her feel better about her image. She said if I was actually that uncomfortable with it then she wouldn't and I suggested doing something like that ourselves although I wouldn't keep any of them. If anyone would like more clarification please feel free to respond. Nothing wrong with establishing boundaries and sticking to them. You made it clear that this would make you uncomfortable and that you wouldn't even want the photos. Regardless, if she decides to go through with it, she's doing it for herself and displaying a clear lack of care for the boundaries you established. Communicating to your partner that doing something will make you uncomfortable is not an example of controlling behavior. I love taking pics cause I won't look how I do right now for much longer and I want to have tasteful pics done. I've gotten really good at doing it with single take but it's not the same as with full-on lighting and someone else aiming the camera. The act of taking pics in a professional sense is not sexual between the photographer and her as much as a display of her beauty and maybe sexuality. I don't see how it's much different than if she ever goes to spas or even get a tattoo or anything else that would require not being covered up. Wow. 3 hours and almost 300 comments. Reddit has answered. Women. Men are literally so dangerous and disgusting. We have to be cautious and on guard at all times. I hate this society. Quote. Also women. Hey, do you want to pay this total stranger to get half naked in front of him with his camera? It'll be super cute. Quote. It's not controlling. It is 100% reasonable to be uncomfortable with your girlfriend meeting some stranger and getting any amount of undressed in front of his camera, for a litany of reasons of which only a handful have anything to do with insecurity and a majority to do with her safety, both physically and on the internet. I wouldn't hand a stranger my wife's lewds, and just hope he doesn't do anything with them, much less pay him for it. I knew a girl who got them done for her, but posted them on her Instagram. She has a BF grimace. Not saying that is your case. However, I will say if that is your boundary you should stick to it. If it makes you feel uncomfortable then you are entitled to that belief. Dude, if she doesn't respect you enough to not cross your boundaries then I don't see a future for your relationship. You can't stop her from doing this but equally she should see how this makes her feel and respect that and not risk a falling out over something too trivial. Obviously couples have a difference of opinions occasionally but the strength of the relationship relies upon how you deal with those differences and her reaction is a definite red flag to me. You're young. If you're not into it, say that. If it's a deal breaker, do both of you a favor and bounce. It's way more fun when you're the one taking the photos. Invest in a Polaroid to make it even more fun. Trust us.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Eracast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.